into is that I think it was Shefty that broke this, Alex, is that the Niners have reportedly narrowed down their third overall draft pick to either Mac Jones or Trey Lance. And as a Niner fan, I would say that this has to be almost terrifying. But we talked about this a couple weeks ago. The Niners, and especially Shanahan, and especially what they've been doing over there, I mean, in terms of, I guess, throwing teams off the scent, and throwing teams off the trail, whether it be in free agency, whether it be in the draft. That's all they've been doing. They're probably the best team in the league at doing that. So, is this legit? Are you buying this? Or is this yet another smokescreen? Now are they going to take, maybe a Justin Fields?
I mean, well, so here's what's going on with the Niners right now.
Mm-hmm.
They have all of the sway, all of the power in the draft right now. They can change everything. They went to number 3 with the original assumption that there was 3 quarterbacks they were comfortable taking. And I think throughout this process and in the deep dive, and I originally think that third quarterback was Mac Jones. I think Kyle Shanahan liked Mac Jones. I think they thought he could integrate him well into the system. But over time and actually evaluating these prospects, I think they saw Trey Lance and Justin Fields are now a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And now with that added element into it, I think they have to look at, do they think Trey Lance, as talented as he is, can grasp the Shanahan system? I personally think he is a genius on the football field. I've heard multiple different interviews where they were talking about, they're raving about his whiteboard ability and talking about how well he understands and digests offenses. So I personally think that this is not a smokescreen. I think they've gotten it down to those 2 guys. They're being very transparent about that. Kyle Shanahan loves Mac Jones, has liked him for a while, thinks they can integrate him to the system. I think the scouting staff and a lot of the front office loves Trey Lance. And this is a lot of what is being talked about in the mainstream media right now. But I don't see a scenario where Kyle Shanahan does not get the guy he likes. So if between the time they made that trade and the draft, if that amount of time Trey Lance has convinced them that he has a higher ceiling than Mac Jones and still can integrate into that system, they go with Trey Lance. I personally think that is a very, very big decision that when they originally traded for 3, they knew who they were going to take. I don't think the time in between that trade and now warrants him completely flipping off of Mac Jones. I still think it's probably 75% likely they take Mac Jones, 20% they take Lance, and 5% they take Fields. Or, throw in that 5%, the Jets getting dumb, taking someone else, and then, maybe Zach Wilson drops or something like that. But I think it's going to be Mac Jones. Peter Schrager said this. He's from the NFL Network. He was comparing. I mean, everyone's compared Mac Jones to Kirk Cousins. Everyone knows that. But he was saying he thinks that Kirk Cousins is his floor and his ceiling is a 6'4", 6'5" version of Drew Brees, which I personally, he kind of sold me on it because he was talking about how Mac Jones grew up. His mom, his dad, his 2 sisters were all tennis players. He was a tennis player growing up, a very, very good tennis player. It kind of goes back into his back. I mean, he's a country club kid. He looks like it. He's got the body of a country
Come
club.
on now.
But those tennis players, they have incredible footwork, and I think it would really mirror how well he moves inside the pocket. He's got the lateral quickness. He's got the forward sliding up and back in the pocket quickness. He's not a burner. He's not fast, but he's got the short, quick twitch movements. So having a inherently lower ceiling with Mac Jones because of everything athletically that Trey Lance can do, but having that Kirk Cousins floor to Drew Brees ceiling, I'm okay with that at 3. I still love Trey Lance. I still think he has the highest upside out of anyone in this draft, but I'm okay with Mac Jones, and I'm starting to be resigned to the fact that they're probably going to pick Mac Jones, and I'm gonna have to be okay with that. So it may just be me trying to justify it to myself, but I don't think this is a smokescreen. I think it's down to those 2 guys. I'd be shocked if it was anyone but Mac Jones or Trey Lance.
The kind of problem here, though, is, Alex, I don't think that a Mac Jones, if you take Mac Jones to draft him as a quarterback, that's not a bad move, like in a vacuum. But the fact that the Niners traded all of this capital to move up to number 3, this could be a large overstep. You did need to move up to 3 if you're going to take Mac Jones. You could move up to like Denver's 9 and taking Mac Jones. You could have moved up to like maybe a Dallas 10 to take Mac Jones. You don't need the 3, so that's why even if they get their guy, it's still going to be a bit confusing on why they made such a huge trade as they did. I guess they were thinking that there's going to be a lot more hype around Mac Jones than there really ever panned out to be.
Yeah.
So that could,
I
could
think
be a mistake.
Here's the bigger issue is Kyle Shanahan, deservedly so, I think is one of the most self-confident, borderline arrogant coaches that we have in the NFL. But the thing is, it's all warranted because I think he's the best offensive mind in the NFL. And I'm going to say it, I don't think it's close. He knows what he likes. He knows his system. So I think he convinced the ownership. He convinced the general managers that if I get this guy at 3, we already know who 1 and 2 is. If I get this guy at 3, I promise you I will turn him into an all-pro quarterback. And I think that the thought process was he would be so sick to his stomach if anyone else traded up for 3 and grabbed Mac Jones that he couldn't live with himself with it. So at the time, they're thinking, do whatever you need to do, get Mac Jones. I don't care if that's 3. I don't care if that's whatever it is. Make sure we get Mac Jones. And at that point, a month away from the draft, I think they had to do the safest thing possible to get Mac Jones. In hindsight, it's probably going to look dumb, but if they get their guy at the end of the day, that's all I care about because Kyle Shanahan, it's now all on him, and I have the most confidence in Kyle Shanahan as a decision maker and as an offensive coach.
At least, I guess, one saving grace, too, is that although they traded away a lot of these assets, it's not like they need to draft a lot of other players to really complete this team either. So if they're able to get their guy, and if he's the guy Shanahan thinks that he is, they're going to a Super Bowl with this team. So that will work out ultimately in the end.